Hey everyone, and Merry Kaye! It's almost that time of year. What are we, maybe like a week out? You can see that my shop is totally decked out. By totally, I mean this amazing tree here. And we've teased this online a little bit, and if you look really closely, look over here, just check out my trees. Something should stand out to you a little bit. And, my John McClane inside the air duct as he makes his way to just yippee-ki-yay the crap out of Hans Gruber. Give him a little help falling off Nakatomi Tower. So with this, it's a little bit tough to see with all this lighting what's going on here. Of course, we have kind of a 3D John McClane, and he's holding his Zippo lighter. And what I've done on the back here is put in kind of one of these, this is actually left over from Halloween, but one of these Christmas holiday little votives to make it look like he's actually holding a candle. Now, I know a lot of you are looking at this and being like, oh, I'm gonna tune away because this looks kind of lame. Well, anything John McClane is not lame. It's Die Hard, man. So in order to see what this really looks like on my other tree, when you have lights coming in from the back and lights coming in from the front, turn around. By now you're noticing that we are in a 360, so it's probably best for you guys to watch either, you can watch it on your desktop and click and scroll around, easier on mobile, but best of all by getting you one of these handy dandy headsets. Now you can get the Google Cardboard one. I like one of those because you can just strap it to your head and look all the way around. So at this moment, if we want to see what that thing really looks like, turn around to the back screen. You'll see some fun favorite Die Hard movie quotes come up, but you can also see and get an idea of what this looks like once you're all said and done. Now, this is not like a 100% original creation. This is something that you find online. They actually even sell these like homemade John McClane ornaments, and some of them go for like over 20 bucks. So today, we're going to make our own and add some of my personal touches to make it even more yippee-ki-yay. So now I have all the guns. Ho, 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 Mr. Hans Gruber. So in order to get started, if you guys are still watching that, turn back around, or you can watch from there. You can see we have an overhead camera to kind of give you an idea of everything we have going on. I already kind of made this one as a prototype, and there are some things that I liked about it and didn't like about it. So this time around, we're gonna improve. So I'm gonna put him aside, kind of like him as a little toolbox topper there. Looks kind of nice. So first things first, you need the image. So you can see I printed out various John McClanes here going on, and what I tried to do was try and print them out as big as possible. So this is a 0.5-inch margin all the way around, and I was actually able to layer up 3. This is not photo paper. One of my concerns was that light hitting it, well, it was going to just reflect right off and you couldn't really tell what the picture was. So this is like a, not exactly cardstock, but slightly thicker paper that I printed him out on. My first attempt, well, if you're going to do Die Hard, you got to go big. And see, this just didn't turn out as big as I wanted to. You can see the side by side there. So we're going with this side. And the only difference is that the margins here are set to 1 inch. And here 2.5. So I think by default it's usually 1 inch. So go into your Word settings and change that up, and you can end up with something that looks like this. So for each of these ornaments, you're actually going to need to cut out 2 because we're going to do some cool 3D effects on him. So I have one already cut out, and next you're going to need some either cardboard, or like I did, I took a piece of scrap aluminum. Here we go, aluminum, there we go, some aluminum to make our duct. Now, I seen this other guy, or saw him make one out of real ducting, and so this really inspired me. At first, I was going to make it out of cardboard, but ducting is curved, and man, to work all those curves out of there, Christmas is coming, I got my shopping to do, I don't have all that much time, but I found that working with aluminum is a lot easier. It bends very easily. You can make nice sharp turns with it versus the other sheet metal that you tend to use for your car. The 22 gauge stuff is a little thicker, tougher. It's also heavier, so by the time you put it on your tree, it's just like, oh, John McClane, now he's falling off Nakatomi Tower. So we don't want John falling off his duct. So aluminum. So what I did was, this came in a 6" by 18" piece, and I cut it in half, so I have my 3 inches by 18 inches here. So that one's already done with the other scrap. So before I start folding this, the first thing you have to do is print out your paper, because then you're going to match up your paper to what you're going to do with your aluminum or your cardboard. And then cardboard, you can actually wrap it up with tin foil, or you can spray paint it silver. But I thought a more authentic look, I mean, this is Die Hard, we got to do them right, you know? We're going to do it out of aluminum, and of course we can't forget our duct tape. It's a duct after all. We need to have duct tape. It's just like something would be wrong if we didn't. I have some assorted ribbons here, which we'll work out later. You know, if you want to hang it, if you want to keep it a tabletop, that's totally up to you. So we have our first John McClane cut out, and you can see that I curved him. And the reason you want to curve him is it makes him look kind of like 3D, like he's coming out at you, you know, so you best, well, have all the guns. And not only that, when he's going through the duct, one of the cool things about the movie scene is that you can see the reflections of him on the right and left as he's crawling through. And so when you look at this one, even though it's kind of in the dark, if you look closely at the reflection, you can see the reflection inside the duct there. So it's like he's really crawling and coming out to get you. So thank God I'm not Hans Gruber. So we have him cut out. Let's first start by making his 3D effects. Now, we already know that we got 3 inches to work with, and it turns out when you do this with a 0.5 inch border, it comes out to just about 3 inches. So if I put that there, we're pretty good. So we know John McClane is gonna fit. Now you're gonna notice that we got a little bit of a border that we're gonna have to trim here, or else he's going to get all like wrinkly in there or get stuck in the vent, and we can't have that because he can't save the day if he's all stuck up in there. So what I'm going to do is just trim a little bit off the top and a little bit off the bottom, and that should give us the clearance we need. My scissors here. So I don't want to chop too much of his noggin off. And you can always test fit and then come back and cut a little bit more later. This is just to give us a general idea. So, let's see here, cut a little off the bottom. I prefer to cut off the bottom more, that way you don't lose his head. And that gives us a good starting point, and then we'll figure out how we're going to curve them and all that. So the first thing we're going to do is I went ahead and printed just a bunch so we can make mistakes if need be. I want his head to kind of pop out like he's like coming right at you. And if you think about it, if he's crawling in the vent, well, this hand is further forward. So we want that hand with the Zippo lighter to be out there as well, like it's coming at you at your face. So beware. Let's start with this bottom one here. He's got a nice smile on that bottom one. So we'll just work with that one. So we're going to cut out the head, and so you just want to go around carefully. Now you may find it easier or better to use the back screen to see what I'm doing, but I will work on holding this up to you guys. And if you notice, I of course picked my favorite Die Hard quotes, which I'm kind of scrolling back there for you. All my favorite Die Hard moments, especially when, man, out of all the millions of terrorists, the one he kills has feet smaller than my sister. And as he's crawling through this vent, I think it was like, you know, let's get away, see the scenes. That's probably not the right quote, but it's back there. You know what I mean. And he just finds himself in this Nakatomi Tower situation. Well, better him than, I guess, any of us, because he will just whoop Hans and his Eurotrash team into oblivion with the help of his cop friend, Al. And, you know, I did a kind of an okay job of cutting out his hair. And there we go. We got one John McClane noggin ready to go. And we're just going to kind of paste him on top here. But before we do that, I'm using some double-sided foam tape. That way we can get his head to kind of, you know, come out at you. So just going to cut this little piece off here. This was extra from something else. I'll put them there. Now, I think what I'm going to do is pile two on top of each other, because this is kind of like a thin little piece. It's not really going to pop his head out all that much. We want to really make it like he's straining. So I'm just going to put it right on top of his face there, and then put this other one, same thing. Look, didn't even measure, and they're pretty much the same size. So there you go. Measure once, cut once. Almost never, but this time, yes. All right, so we're going to try and lay his head right on top of his other head. See how that goes to give him his nice 3D appearance. That's already looking good. See, he's already kind of like coming out at you. And let's do the hand. Now, instead of just cutting out the hand, I figured maybe I'll cut his whole arm off and have this flush with him, and then kind of maybe put 3 stickies and really make that hand come out. So let's see how that works. And so all I'm going to do is just start cutting here, get kind of a general idea of his arm. We'll add some additional muscles with our scissors, some contouring to the arms. So he looks as John McClane as he could. And I think what I'm going to do is, see this like kind of armpity? I think we're just going to go right up the armpit to his shoulder, and that's how we're going to do his arm there. So we have A Christmas Story. We have Christmas Vacations, which of course, you know, great movies. Scrooged, Bill Murray, one of my all-time favorites. So comment, what is your favorite Christmas movie, holiday movie? It could be Elf, maybe. That's another great one that I love with Will Ferrell. But honestly, of all those, they just don't hold a candle or Zippo lighter to Die Hard. Die Hard is just... You just know it's Christmas when Hans Gruber falls off Nakatomi Tower. Now you're like, now we can celebrate. Bust out the drinks, bust out the presents, but until then, there's no point in opening up any type of Christmas presents. So we've gotten to the critical juncture, the armpit. The armpit. Let's see if I can try and make this cut as smooth as possible so he doesn't look all like raggedy. And adding a smooth curve. Man, that's pretty good. All right, so we're basically just going to paste it right on top of his other arm, but instead just kind of make it come out like that a little bit more. So let's try and get like three pieces here, and I think along with the other piece that I kind of tossed somewhere, if I could find it, we'll just use that. If not, we'll cut another one out. So post in the comments, what is your favorite Die Hard moment, your favorite movies. I want to know everything, the way you guys celebrate Christmas, the holidays, with family, not family. What are you guys doing this year? What kind of gifts are on your list there? Are they car parts? I know some of mine are definitely car parts. So you can see that I double-deckered this, but I'm almost wanting to triple-decker it, because on my other one it's a double-decker, but I'm kind of wondering what it would look like if I triple-decker it. And I don't know what happened to my other little piece, so we'll just make another one. And that's about square-shaped. So we're going to cut another square shape out of here, and yippee-ki-yay this guy on. That's pretty good. All right, so we're ready to go, and I'm gonna go see how closely I can get this guy. Like if I were to match up his armpit. Ooh, see, that's why I cut at the armpit, because you can kind of match him up a little bit easier there. Get the armpits going, and there we go. That's pretty good. So now you've got the hand with the lighter coming out at you, and I'm just going to fix this kind of situation here. It kind of looks like he's getting dislocated, like his shoulder is dislocated, and he's not going to be able to, you know, shoot himself through himself to get to the other guy very well if his shoulder's already busted. So a little bit of crazy glue. You can use like regular Elmer's as well. And just by that crunch, it kind of sounds like it's dry. So, oh no, I got some flow. I got some flow. So here we go. Now, the true question, will I get more on this or on myself? That is always the question of the day. I'm going to flip this, because this might be a real short video if I glue my fingers together, which there's like an 80% chance of that happening. Or glue this drill bit onto John McClane. Listen, there's worse places a drill bit could be. I'd like to be kicking some tush with him, taking out the bad guys, all that. So I'm gonna let that settle. You know how they say like crazy glue takes 15 seconds to dry? I find that is not true. It always seems to take more, because you wait the 15 seconds, then you go use your item and you're like, oh, it just comes apart. So crazy glue is still gluing, but you can see that now his head and his hand are coming at you. And then when you do an effect like this, that looks pretty cool, kind of going through the air ducts. So I'm just going to wipe up the excess crazy glue there so it's not so shiny with this other piece. And I'm going to dab it somewhere else, which will probably become a nuisance down the line over here once everything starts sticking together. But our John McClane is now complete. So to figure out what kind of bend, we know that he's about 3 inches tall. So how much should we bend him? You know, you don't want to bend him too much, because then he just looks ridiculous. So for me, what I did was a bend of about 5.5. So with your ruler, kind of just went like this and tested it out. So a 5.5 inch bend would be about that. And I thought that looked kind of cool. So 5.5, so we can start marking this up. We're going to go 5.5 and then 3 inches for the height, another 5.5, and then another 3. And we're going to end up with just a little bit left over, which I think I'll use as a fold over piece. But if you look at this, this was just freshly cut. And I cut it off with like a combination of a Dremel tool, which you see it kind of getting a little bit gnarled here because it's thin. I didn't have a vise, so it just starts to flap around and you're trying to control the whole thing. Here where it's smoother, I actually used tin snips, which is buried in here somewhere. So definitely comment if your work table looks like mine all the time, where you're having to like look under every single thing before you find the thing you're really looking for. But anyways, tin snips was definitely the way to go with this piece of aluminum. Cut it like butter. Oh my gosh, we can make a name out of it. How many times are we going to say aluminum in the video? So you can see that the ends are like really gnarly. So before we get cutting, I have a piece of sandpaper somewhere. I think I heard it fly down here on the floor, and we're going to take care of these ends. The other thing that I noticed when I bought this is that it was all beat up. It had a ton of scratches, and I went through the entire pile trying to find the most beautiful shiny piece of aluminum that I could, and I didn't. So there are ways that you can polish this up, but after I finished making the other one, I kind of like the beat up look. I mean, it looks straight out of the movie. So I'm just using a little bit of sandpaper here. You can see it's 80 grit, just to sand down these edges because, yeah, they're kind of gnarly. So not just the cut edges, but we're also going to bevel them just a little bit, because even if you get them all smooth, well, then all that jaggedness kind of curls over and you can still feel it. So for that, I'm going to take a little bit of a file. I'm going about a 45. And just get rid of all those snarls. Oh, and if you haven't already, probably turn down the volume. I'm sure this sounds amazing right now, just as amazing as it does to me. So, there we go. One more side to do. Oh, it's not that bad on that side. And almost done. Just gonna do it this way. Make life a little bit easier. for me for once. All right, so that's already looking much better. A couple snarls here, but we can definitely smooth that out. It looks like this side is definitely our smoother side, so I think I'm going to make this the outside and this the inside. So let's get to measuring. I'm going to move a couple things out of the way here if you guys take a look down. And we're going to use this to bend it. So let's see, what did I say? 5.5? I think 5.5. So we have a couple questions. So Bishop 2355, have you seen the Christmas movie Krampus? I have not. For those of you watching, Krampus, I believe, is a horror movie, right, Bishop? And that's one of my favorite genres is sci-fi and horror. And I'm super excited to watch it because it looked right up my alley. I'm actually pretty excited to watch it. So great recommendations. Giancarlo says, first time in cinema, watched Die Hard with a Vengeance in 1995. I loved all the Die Hards. I know some people didn't like number 3 or, you know, some of the later ones. I love them all. You know that when you're going to go, it's just going to be a bunch of ass kickery, and that's what I go for. And nothing is better than Christmas and a little bit of that. So all I'm doing is measuring my 5.5 inches here. And this is going to be where John McClane is going to be crawling from. And make sure that's, you know, it's kind of straight. There we go. And I'm taking an orange Sharpie, which is not really visible by the time you fold it. And then you can take just a little bit of a, you know, kitchen sponge and get it off. So from this line, this is going to be our 3-inch line, where we hope that John McClane is not really going to bump his head too much, but we can always trim a little bit further away. Oh, wrong denomination of measurements there. And here's our 3-inch. And then if it gets a little crooked, I know for me that it definitely did. As I went along, the line started to get a little more crooked. But this is a pretty forgiving project, which, you know, we don't get very many of those in life, so take it when you can. Take it when you can get it. So one of the things I'm doing is just, as I place this ruler, you know, kind of eyeballing it, seeing that it's kind of straight with the other one. If you've watched some of these streams, you know I'm a huge eyeballer. We don't do that much measuring. And so far we've come out with okay results for most of our things. So one more 5.5 run here. And we have Guy on the couch, Yippee Kayak, Other Buckets. Isn't that from like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, like their version of it? I believe so. All right. And I think we're down to just like one more measurement. So as exciting as this is, it's about to end. I know. Oh, I wish we could like rewind on live so we can watch this measuring over and over and over again. Well, you guys, not me. I'll be like enjoying my John McClane movie with my little eggnog as I watched him wreak havoc on those terrorists. All right, so we have everything measured up. We can see our 5.53, 5.53, and whatever that is, that nubbin is. So in order to bend this, I found the easiest way, because it is aluminum and not, you know, the regular sheet metal that we use, you just need a good straight edge. If you have a vise, oh my gosh, even better. The rest of us commoners, well, we pick around the house, see what we can find. So I found this, it's got a nice straight edge. My table has like a rounded edge, so it's not great, but if you have a table with a nice sharp edge, that's the way to go for sure. So I'm just laying this on the line here, and all I'm going to do is hold it down. And I may even stand up for this, guys. Whoa, I know, seriously. And we're going to go ahead and bend it up. I'm trying to bend it from the bottom so that way you don't get too much of a U. And once you have that 90-degree shape, I like to bend it just a little bit more, like over bend it, so that way it kind of springs back a little bit. And we're going to do it again for our 3-inch section. Same deal. I might be able to kind of just do it midair, which probably isn't the best thing, but there we go. And doing it from the bottom helps you get kind of that sharper 90-degree bend. If you have a vise, you know, you're probably like looking real good about now, much more than we are here. So we have most of a air duct there, you know, a little escape hatch for John McClane, but we're going to make it tough on him. We're going to close that off because after all, it's John McClane. So we got one more. And what to do with this little bit? I figured this little bit is kind of nice rather than cutting it off. Then you get kind of a structure that just wobbles around a little bit. I figure if we can just loop this over, you can also adjust the height of this. And you'll see what I mean because I ran into this with the other one. So let me see if I can get this, give me a little room there. This little one is probably the toughest one to do because there's not much to grab onto. So I'm just kind of lining it up as best I can, and then really using my Hulktastic muscles. So I'm going to push him down, and there we go. We have pretty much a shape of a duct going on. This one's kind of like a more U-y shape. You can see how sharp these edges are. This one kind of, let's see if we can get him a little more duct-like. There we go. So before I close him off, and you can either lay this on top or you can clasp it that way, however is more stable for you. I'm actually going to do it up here like this because one of the things I kind of forgot to do was put a hole. Now this is where you can decide if you want this to be a tabletop decor or if you want it to go on your tree. Well, we kind of need a hole up here so we can, you know, thread some kind of ribbon of your choosing. All right, so let me start with a smaller drill bit, the smallest one I got right here, ready to go. And all right, so I'm going to go ahead and try and hold this guy as steady as I can. And I'm going to guesstimate that this hole will go somewhere over here. That looks kind of central, right? We're not going to measure this out. And I'm going to step up just a little bit. And you just want to step up to whatever ribbon you think you're going to use. I use like a really nice fancy blue one, this guy over here, so it's a little bit thicker. So I'm going to go with this drill bit here. It worked for me the last time with our pilot hole done. All right, before we put John McClane in here, I'm just going to give this a little bit of a clean on the inside. You can see some of the orange markings in there, so let's just go ahead and get rid of that a little bit. We got some more comments. Looks like you guys have some great Christmas movies, but probably kind of the coolest suggestion so far has been the Krampus one, so thank you, Bishop, kind of for reminding me that was actually on my list. So you can already see one of the best ways to really polish this up is definitely with this. Your 80 grit is just way, way too harsh to get kind of that fine detail. But one of the things that you can do, and there goes my comments, so let me grab that for a sec. Break time. And let me put him down here because there's too much action going on this table. See, I promise you an action-packed project, and that's what you're getting. So I'm gonna stay in line with, we gotta keep up with Die Hard. Can't be making no like, you know, pom-poms or a little cotton ball type of project here. Power tools, that's how we do Christmas, right? All right, so we have our little air duct here ready to go. We can decorate it with a couple scratch marks and scuffs, but you can see the interior looks nice and clean. And let's start getting John in here. So we have our John McClane ready to go. And one of the things I'm going to do is just secure him lightly with duct tape. I'm just kind of wiping off the metal, like the little fine metal dust here that we created. You can see a bunch of glitter on my table. I call it sweat, like John McClane glistening sweat there. All right, so start with one piece of duct tape and tape it to the back of John McClane there. And let's see if we need to trim anything down. We can already see that this is leaning a little bit. That's going to cause some issues. All right. Oh, not too bad of a fit. And all I'm going to do is just match up the edge to the back of this. It's pretty simple to do. And we do need to, it looks like, trim just a little bit. Let me pull him out and give him a quick trim. Right here. And sometimes you'll notice that your John McClane is a little bit slanted. Sometimes he'll be like narrow here and then get like fatter as he goes. It really just depends on the bend that you end up with. But this is probably the more trickier part. But once you get it down, you're good. There we go. I'm going to just flip this duct tape for now. It looks kind of, you know, lame, but we'll fix it later. And I'm going to take him and flip him back inside. He's all trying to get out, like, please don't put me back in here. Back you go to save the day. And I'm going to cut just a little bit more off the top here without doing his head. So this is probably like really the only part that you have to just adjust and fine-tune a little bit as you go. So I can see that right here. It's a little tall. So, you know, unless you want to use Photoshop and make exact dimensions and, you know, using cardboard, you know, that gives you a lot more play than like a metal box like this. But, you know, do me my John McClane right? All right. So we're almost there. You can see just by here, we're just a little bit long there. And I'm going to go and trim him up. It's always right by his head. Sorry, John. I'm just going to give you a little haircut. And we should be just about good there. Metal on glass. Sorry about that. Or am I? All right, so he's good there. Let me secure him with another piece of duct tape. And so John McClane is in the duct. We're just going to start putting on the finishing touches that really make this look more refined, you know, not like a kindergarten project that we brought home. So let me know so far how this is turning out. You guys, see, little John McClane there. He is coming for you. And let me even out the bend. He's bended on one side more than the other. There we go. Now we got him a little bit more uniform. So let's decide if I want this on top like this, or maybe I want to slip it on the bottom. It looks like we have just the right amount of clearance up top there. So I think I'm going to leave this up top the way it is. So let me start by securing it, and I think what I'm going to do is start making these a little bit neater now, these strips of duct tape that are going to be visible. Let's make it more like on-purpose seams rather than just like, you know, masking tape that we're using to tape things up. Now I have this cutting board here, and it's got all kinds of measurements, as you can see, inches. It's going to make our life a ton easier. And I'm going to use my X-Acto knife, which is somewhere on this table, right under all the John McClanes. He's foiling my plans. I'm not Hans Gruber John McClane, so please don't be foiling my plans. And all I'm doing is just cutting against one of the lines here. It doesn't matter, just to get kind of a straight cut. There we go. And now we have our tape. So I think I'm going to make that piece of tape an inch. So cutting from the bottom here. And one of the cool things with these cutting tables is that you can get precise cuts like this. You don't have to worry about damaging your table or anything like that. So I'm just going to secure this lightly with a piece of tape just to kind of keep it in place while we do our edging, our duct edging. Yeah, I'll show you guys what that's about. So in this kind of way, you're kind of done. I mean, if you like the way it looks this way, you got your hole, you can put your ribbon, you can call it a day and be done with it. But one of the things I did that you guys saw in the video was make it like his Zippo lighter is like flickering. And when you put that in the tree, it makes such a huge difference. So I'm going to show you guys how I did that. But first, let's finish edging this box. When I run my hands over it, it's nice and smooth. I got all those barbs out. But in order to just kind of give it that finishing touch where you don't see this like tape at the end, I mean, it looks like a kid's school project. Like, no offense, kids, but not everything you draw is like beautiful. Listen, I knew everything I drew wasn't pretty, you know, thanks to my parents. They were like, oh, that looks nice, you know, but sometimes they'd be like, oh, what is that? And I was so offended that they didn't know exactly what I drew. And they're like, well, why don't you tell me your interpretation of what you drew? Trying to make me feel all better. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to cut a 1/2 inch strip going all the way down. And this is going to be a border for our duct box. So a nice long one like that will do. And you'll see what I mean, guys. So it looks less school project-y and more like, you know, you mean to go kick some terrorist butt at Nakatomi Tower. So, if you're going to do it. So all I'm doing is I cut this into a 1/2 inch strip. So I'm eyeballing about 1/4 inch to put on top. And I'm just going to start it right at the top of the box here. It might be a little easier for you guys to see in the back screen there, but that's looking pretty nice. And then I'm just going to continue about 1/4 inch, keeping it as symmetrical as I can, as even as I can. And now we have kind of like this, you know, flappadoo going on. So let's take care of that. And all I'm going to do is very neatly tuck it in, just roll it in. And that, what that starts to do is create a nice little border. It kind of takes care of any shards or loose metal shavings that, you know, perhaps we mixed or missed in the process. But it also gives you more of a finish to the ends here. So your project just looks a little more professional. So that whole piece got me from this edge all the way around to about the middle. So another strip just like that and we'll pretty much be good. So I'm going to go ahead and cut another, grabbing the scissors, I don't know why, but another 1/2 inch, and that'll give us another finish here. And I'm just going to overlap in a way that like you can't even tell it's overlapped. But I'm going to maintain that 1/4 inch type of border. And then when we meet up, oh no, it's sticking everywhere. When we meet up with this one, we just want to make sure that you don't see any of the seams. And I might as well just finish it off at the end here. Give it a little cut. And like we did before with all this kind of extra flopperoos, just tuck it in. So this is the front of the box that we're doing this to. And it's nice because if you know, kind of envision what ductwork works like or looks like, you know, they do have some of these finished ends here. They're not just like abrupt barbs. And plus it's duct tape. We kind of have to find a way to incorporate duct tape into the project. So you can see here, our nice little border is done. And now we're going to repeat that on the back. And one important reason for that is if this one actually did a pretty good job. If you look at the right and the left sides all the way in the back, there's no real light coming through. But sometimes, you know, the way you cut it or the way you bend it, you can see some light, especially on the top and bottom. You can put some foam pieces to cover that. But trust me, when it's on the tree, you don't even really notice it. It's really kind of, the sides here, it kind of fools. It ruins the illusion that he's coming at you if you can see light coming on his left and his right. So we're going to repeat what we did here, but on the back side. And we have our strips. So all I'm going to do is, you know, repeat. And about here and somewhere about here will be good. because the tape is not exactly, you know, to the inch, because this is dollar store. And one thing you're going to notice when you buy dollar store duct tape, dollar store tape, is that first of all, you get less rounds, you know, of it, but not only that, it's actually ever so slightly thinner just to save that little bit of material. So nice try, dollar store, but I know your schemes and I know what you're up to. And it changes my purchasing habits not at all. I still buy from you, so you win. All right, so this is where we kind of seam the box together. So I want to make sure I get that all nice and tight. And again, just fold it. We're going to tuck it in. Trying not to wrinkle it. But this kind of shuts all the lighting problems that you can have along the sides. And you can see that we start to get a really nice border going up, you know, just all the way around. It looks just like a better product. And then we'll you know, we'll fix that little tape blunder there. And I got one more. This one's probably going to be way too long for what we need anymore, but we'll trim it. So you can see I'm going to try and match this guy up. And we're just going to go right over that tape, and I'll show you guys what I'm going to do. Oh, and there. So it's going to cut him. All right, so we have our border. Our duct tape on the duct work is complete. I'm just going to fold this guy over. And now it's time to light the Zippo. And there's all kinds of ways you can do this. You can buy your very own little LED and wire it up, do a little bit of soldering, put a battery pack to it. That's all fine. But you know what? Again, at the dollar store, getting my nice cheap accessories, you can buy 4 of these for $1, and this makes your life so much easier. So I'll show you kind of how I modified these to make it work just a little bit better. You can see I still have access here to my hole where I'm going to be putting the ribbon. But John McClane, I'm just shifting him a little bit. He's trying to struggle out of here. He looks like he's ready to go. And all I'm going to do is just kind of trim up this ugliness. And I'm going to use my X-Acto knife here. And just give it a little bit, follow the seam, my little 1/4 inch seam, and remove the excess, just like that, and you get, you know, a nice little seam there. And we're going to do the same here. Now this needs to stay taped shut, so let me cut another piece. And that's really the only place. And this is now where the true fun begins, is like, where's the end of the duct tape? Found it. All right. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to lay out, you know, about 3 inches or so. And get that there. And I'll go 4 inches. And I think that side looks better of the tape. And again, I'm just doing like a, you know, a 1/2 inch on this side. And get him all tucked away in his air vent, even though it's not a place he really liked in the movie. All right. Cutting the excess. So we have a happy John McClane in here, and I'm going to do the same. I'm just going to tear off this excess here, so we have our borders all looking very uniform, very 1/2 inchy looking, or as close to my eyeballing that I can get. A little bit extra here. So I'm going to cut that off. And I'm not really too worried about gouging the metal here, only because you don't really see it. All right, so John McClane is done, and I'm just going to clean him up a little bit. You can see like all the, you you know, a little bit of marring going on. So I'm going to go with the length of the box, and you can already see goes to a nice like brushed appearance, like all scratchy and then all nice. Just the way it matches some of the other ornaments we have on the tree. Now you can put in your own gouges if you want to make it look, you know, like he's been beat up. You can even put holes in there, like bullet holes and things, but you kind of lose some of the light of our Zippo effect. Now for this one, it's still going, and because of our lighting, you can't really see what's going on here. You see some kind of lame thing flickering, but from the videos you saw, it does look pretty cool. And let me show you how I did this. One of the things that you can do is put a little bit of Velcro and just Velcro it inside, just like that. But you know, his whole self kind of lights up. It looks nice, but it doesn't really look like the light source is coming from the Zippo. So I figured there's got to be a way to like lean this. And at first I had the whole contraption and I was leaning it in like that. And you just basically lose light by the time it gets to the tip. So you can, you know, cut the tip off to be able to get that light closer. But what I found with these, if you just start to turn it, you know, a little bit, it starts to loosen up, and it's just a clip. You can just pull this right off the LED, and if you smack that LED right on there and try and find, see, you can kind of like drag him around trying to find that perfect point where on the back side, and I know it's double layer, so it kind of seems like, well, you know, maybe you should cut a hole. That works. I thought it was like too harsh, but on the tree it actually works perfect. And what you want to do is try and light up that little light bulb right with his flame. So to do that, let me grab my Velcro, and let's think about Velcroing this guy on. So I have a pad here. You can see I've been cutting away. My poor scissors have so much glue on them. So let's see if I can Hulk another piece off of here. All right. So I'm going to put one piece on our, let's see, I like kind of having the switch at the bottom, just like that. So, and, okay, now this is the part where like, however long this video is could turn into like another hour-long video where we try and peel the backing off of this thing. How long will this take? If you guys have any amazing tricks for this, I would love to know them, because this is the part that like always, it's not like fabricating anything. That's the easy part. It's peeling the sticky off of the back of these things. All right, so before I put it in, I'm basically gonna put him in like this and just kind of rotate him into place. Once I find right where that, oh, there he is, and I'm moving it in from his armpit location to where I think the little light is, and I may have to turn away from you guys just a bit, and I think that's nailed it. I think that's where it is, even though like you kind of really can't see, and this effect looks completely lame right now until we really see it up on the tree. So envision it on the tree along with the footage that showed you. I'm gonna pop that back up there for you guys in just a little bit. But that's our John McClane. He is done, and you can either make a little table stand, put a couple felt feet on him. So aluminum and felt feet have not been the words of the day this time around. So I'm going to put him aside, and yes, we have like our purples. Maybe I did a blue one for him this time, and I'll do, you know, a purple. This should be a little bit easier to get through the hole than that blue was. So basically, I don't know, I'm trying to decide how long I want this loop to be, something like that. And I'm going to try and get them in there together, or a red ribbon, you know, for... Now this one was a little easier because it had metal, like the little metal going through the ribbon, which makes it easier to feed through. These are a little tougher, so let's see if I can get that right in the hole, if I have folded it enough. And can I grab Is it grabbable? Ooh. When all else fails and everything goes flying off the table. Ah, there we go. Grabbed it. So what I'm going to do without pulling this entire thing through, I'm going to pull it mostly through. That way I can do a knot here. And well, that's, you know, about good. It's not going to go anywhere that way. Now I can pull it back. And now I have kind of like an extra long hangy thing that I can hang. And John McClane is ready to go. I'm going to show you one more time what this actually looks like on the tree, because with all the lights here, it kind of washes out that very faint Zippo candly light effect. So if you turn around, turn, and take a look, some of you have been watching our movie quotes back there, but if you take a look at what it looks like, I think it just looked amazing with all of my other decorations. They were all kind of like running for cover though. So as long as none of them were like trying to be bad or knock down my Christmas tree Nakatomi tower thing, then they're all good. So I hope you guys have had fun. This is kind of like our fun holiday Christmas special, celebrating one of my favorite holiday movies, of course, Die Hard. So if you guys have a holiday movie, mention it in the comments. We'll be able to think of something way fun for next year. But until next time, I want to wish you guys a happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Yippee-ki-yay to you all. My name is Rachel DeBarros, and you guys have been watching Nerd Dungeon on Wonder Spawn. Merry Christmas!